Yeah, most people are in the room. So before I hand it over to Anyak, I just wanted to go to slide 2. We have Anyak, Sarah, Nicola, and Jar today, and we just really like to thank the Unconference. We are very unconferencey today, and we're just talking about the earthquake and what's going on. And I love open spaces because the rules of open spaces are whoever comes are the right people. Whenever it starts is the right time, and whatever happens is the only thing it could have. So whatever happens today is just going to be really great and a cool session to hear some stories from each other. So I'll hand it over to Anyak, who's going to do our Acknowledgement of Country. Thanks, Anyak.
Thanks, Sarah, and welcome everyone. I would like to do Acknowledgement to the Country. And first, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we stand and meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respect to the elders past and present and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be in the meeting today. So please welcome, and let's hope the session will be fun.
And if there's anyone from Autria, if you would like to do a karakia, that'll be awesome, but no pressure. Oh, good. So I just had some brief housekeeping. I know we've got someone from Iran. That's so cool. How exciting. So yeah, we've got people from around the world, and many of us are from communities where we don't have much internet. So this is just a bit of housekeeping so that it runs smoothly today. So if you have your audio, please keep it muted unless you're a co-host. There will be some chances to interact through the session, so feel free to unmute yourself on the bottom left when you would like to say something. Maybe wave your hand in the reactions button if you'd like to share something. If you're having trouble with your bandwidth, please keep your video off, as that helps your computer to run smoothly. And we have a number of hosts here today, Dee, who may be able to help with any technical support. As you know, it's being recorded at the moment, and if you don't like your face on the screen, maybe that's another way to keep yourself off the recording. But I don't know about you, but I like to talk to faces on screens. It's a bit hard when there's a few blank screens. So if you can have your video on, that'd be great. And we'd love to take a picture at the end. Next slide. I do have to, I guess not warn you, but with hip hop, there's a few tracks that we're going to play today, and they have some, as a radio station here would say, it has some cussing in it, some language warnings at the start. So if you don't like, I guess, swear words, then maybe that's just something to be aware of as we play the music coming up. So this final screen's just if you have any problems with your Zoom today, just maybe inbox D to ask any questions. So yeah, next slide. Let's get to know everyone.
Yeah.
So it seems like we already got some mob in the room, so welcome. But yeah, where else, everyone else from? I can see we've got Iran, we've got someone from Nairobi. Awesome, welcome. What can everyone write in the chat where they're signing in from today? Maybe what country they're on or whereabouts they're placed so that we can see. Awesome. We got some Central Coast. Yep, Dark and Jung. Awesome. Welcome. And has everyone been to other sessions, or is this your first session for the day? Maybe you had a late rising or cool. We got some more Jaja Waring. Awesome. Kulin Nations. Cool. Awesome.
Oh, 5th or 6th session.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
You're really getting it done today, Joanna. I'm loving the spirit. I can feel it through the screen.
Joanne and Michelle are OGs, original gangsters of the
Of the UN conference. Love it.
Really great. So welcome everyone. We're now going to set the scene. The four of us also live in Naarm, also known as Melbourne, and we'd just like to share a bit about the experiences of South Sudanese communities in Australia. So I'm going to hand it over to Ja and Anyak to explain a bit of the background. So next slide, please.
All right, so we are from the South Sudanese community in Victoria, Melbourne. We've been here for maybe going 2 decades now. And as most of us came through the refugee backgrounds. So settlement was always hard as there is any settlers or any immigrants. But through the last few years, as our community settled, it's been a bit hard. There's been a lot of challenges, as you would know. There's been a lot of narrative that doesn't, it's not correct, or that doesn't really, or it's not favorable. There's been a lot of gang talk with the youth. So there's been a lot of youth which has found the voice to be able to voice themselves and to impact and to show the community in a different light. So they've done that through creative arts. So I'll pass it to Anyak to continue from there.
Thanks, Jacob. And pretty much from what Jacob is saying, basically, as you can see from here, with the whole narrative of the African gang from some politician, of course, is to kind of create fear and divide within the community. However, it's just that some youth from the community being labeled as such. Of course, being young as well, in a different land, and just being young in general is not easy. There's a lot of factors that can kind of like make one's experience quite harder. As you can see here, from the African gang, the African community themselves took it upon themselves to change the narrative by, like as you can see in the photo there, people graduating and just labeling that as African gang as well, because to change the narrative, it's not just African gang, even that term itself is quite broad. So people were taking the ownership of that, and also, saying that, no one is a gang in that sense. If you're going to say it's a gang, then people graduating might as well just be that. So that's just a perspective, and we are here to change that perspective in a positive manner. As you can see, there's a lot of youth here. I myself was part of that as well. In that protest, I don't know if you can see, there's a sign I'm holding on the corner there, said we are a student, not gang. And that's basically just, to change the narrative and counteract the media narrative that was put out by Channel 7, not just Channel 7 only, but Channel 7 seemed to put a lot of negative sides of the community in the media a lot. And so that's why there was a protest at Channel 7 headquarters in Melbourne, in Dockland. And most youth took part of it. As you can see, the young person here holding the microphone is one of the active young person within the community as well. And we just wanted to voice our concerns and change the narrative into a positive manner. So that was that, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Anyak. And so Kran and Titan, the gentlemen holding the microphone, are actually South Sudanese hip hop artists. And today's session is about how hip hop can transform or create a counter narrative. And so we're talking about how they use their hip hop personas to create alternative forms of activism, which is a topic that hasn't really yet been captured in research, or it has in community development circles. But it's just really great to capture these stories. So if you go to the next slide, Nicola. So the way that Jacob, myself, and Yak and Nicola know each other is through Footprints, which is an organization which myself and a couple of friends co-founded in about 2007, 2008, I think was our first project. And that's when a young man called Liep Goin, sorry, got to say it in Dinka, was killed in Noble Park through a couple of, I guess, white teenagers. And in the media, it was depicted by the immigration minister, saying that African teenagers had killed the young man, and that the South Sudanese communities in Australia particularly weren't integrating into Australia. So I developed the topic "I was born to stand out" through my master's research, and I'm now currently doing my PhD at Deakin, where we questioned whether the goal was to fit in or to integrate, and whether that was a very helpful language. So "I was born to stand out" is speaking about intercultural identities. So young people who may be South Sudanese, they may identify as Australian, they may have a subculture that they are a part of, and that being born to stand out is that we're fabulous to fit in and we all have something to offer. So today with the Unconference, if you think about it as assets, I like to think in community development circles, I sometimes hear a lot, oh, we're helping young people discover their voice, or we're giving young people a voice. And I find that language a bit problematic. In my experience, everyone has a voice and it's often sidelined. And so born to stand out is the idea that hip hop can give a language or a community to express that voice. So we're going to play a video now of some of Footprint's projects, and I hope you enjoy it.
We don't have sound.
Nicola, you need to unmute yourself, love.
Sorry.
This white cultural discourse. Media and moral panics targeted at this community over the last decade have limited the—
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. Oh, good. Welcome to our new person who just joined.
Here expects a black male or black female to act a certain way. You almost have to like make yourself small.
Born to stand out, the role of hip hop for South Sudanese Australian youth to develop their voice to resist white cultural discourse. Media and moral panics targeted at this community over the last decade have limited their sense of freedom and well-being. My research sought to understand how they negotiate life in Australia despite this. Through hip-hop, the current generation of young people developed innovative ways to display agency, expression, and strong counter-narratives. This links back to a long history of arts-based civil rights activism, which represents Black excellence as expressed in the idea of being born to stand out rather than trying to be honorary whites.
Hip-hop for me gave me a purpose. I related to it because I saw people just like myself being able to express themselves.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to
Bear
hand it
with
over,
me.
I'm going to hand it over to Anyak now, who's going to get to know a bit about everyone in the group, whether you listen to hip hop. So over to you, Anyak.
Thanks, Sarah. I just want to put a question out to you all, and just I want to see, raise your hand if you listen to hip hop, so at least we know, you know, how many people know a bit about hip hop, and then we can continue. 1, yeah, 2, 3, is that 4? So seems like there's quite a few, but just a follow-up question. Within hip hop, what kind of genre do you listen to? So just to help us, you know, narrow it down later on when we present. Maybe just a few, you know, raise your hand a little bit if you can. All right.
So we have Lisa, Conscious, Dee listens to Aussie and old school. Some people might be like, what's a genre of hip hop? I didn't know there's genres.
Genre is more, but yeah.
So what's a genre of hip hop, Joe? What's some others that we know
Subgenre,
of?
you mean? So
Yeah,
subgenres within, yeah, so subgenres within the hip hop, you have the rap, and you have your R&B and the soul, and pop is part of it as well. And then there's the new subgenres now where you have the drill and the trap.
And grind as well from UK.
Drill, yep.
Karen listens when there's Indigenous Australian rappers. That's awesome.
There's also gospel rap.
Lisa's a grime person. Oh,
Awesome.
so good. So
I dabble in a bit of grime.
Oh, nice. So grime came from the UK initially.
Yeah.
So Joe and Yuck, how did you get into hip hop and what's your background?
So I got introduced to hip hop at a pretty young age. My brother introduced me to hip hop, to be fair to him. And actually at the time I was in Kenya when I was very young before I came here, and I was listening to a lot of Kenyan music, and then there was the rap music. So as I got older, I began to find my own sound that I relate to. Now I listen to more of a conscious rap, which is more poetry, or more educational, more inspirational. I mean, I listen to a bit of everything, but now that's sort of what I am into. But that's how I got introduced to my brother. And when I came here, like a lot of what we were talking about before, like a lot of younger Sudanese people, Sudanese youth, we in the group that I grew up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, we also had our own rap group. So that's another way we also met Sarah. And so we used to write rap, and it was fun. So I also got into hip hop in that sense, where I understood the writing side of it, and how to write a verse, and what it took, and all of that. And yeah, my love of hip hop just grew from there. And I've gone to concerts, I've worked with artists. So yeah, that's my hip hop background.
Joe and I got to go see Nas and Lauryn Hill. That was the best, wasn't it, Joe?
That was the best. That was the Lauryn Hill Miseducation of Miss Education of Miss Lauryn Hill, which was the 25th or was the 20th. Yeah,
and how about you, Anya? How did you get into hip hop?
I got into hip hop way earlier, like I would say maybe in early 2005, 2006, just in high school. Apart from just doing banter with the boys, we used to do battle rap, just trying to rhyme some words up at the time, just see who can rhyme better. However, I was involved in quite a few youth programs growing up as well. And through youth program, we just got into doing a lot of hip hop. We've done dancing, then we started doing, like writing lyrics and so forth. And I kind of took interest in that, because not only can I express myself through writing of what I'm feeling or what's frustrating me, but also too, I can actually record it and get other people to listen to it as well. So I got into hip hop in that, and then I ended up recording a few songs. And at the time it was those time, Sarah, you mentioned earlier, Liam, going where the media was just all putting all kind of negativity out and so forth. And that, as a young person, I used the hip hop as a vehicle to express myself of my frustration. So even at the time, I wrote a song called "Teenager's Life," which is to talk about what the media was putting out and how they're portraying us in such a way, and we didn't have another way to kind of sit on the table to counteract that. So that's how I got into hip hop. And apart from being a 90s kid, so listening to a lot of 2000 hip hop and 90s hip hop kind of like inspired me, especially Tupac, Nas, similar to Jacob as well. Conscious rap was part of my kind of motivation to get into hip hop. So that was that. But I'm not following hip hop now. I'm into just supporting young people, but hip hop is always going to be part of me either way.
Well, thank you so much. And so in my PhD, I guess I've been trying to look at some of the origins of hip hop. And a few years ago, I volunteered for the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, and I took myself over to the Bronx, and I was looking for 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, which is apparently where the first hip hop party was hosted by Kool Herc back in the, I don't know if it was the late 70s, early 80s. And what I noticed about that building was it felt like in there's a place called the Flemington Flats or the Collingwood Flats, and I think maybe that's where you kind of grew up, hey, Anya, in your teenage years when you arrived in Australia. It felt like
in the suburb, then Richmond.
Richmond
Richmond
Oh,
and
yeah.
North Melbourne. Yep, and North Melbourne.
Those
Yeah.
Hollow Street.
Mm.
So for those of you who may not know, they're kind of like high-rise buildings that have, you know, thousands of people living in close proximity in flats. And when I thought of Kool Herc and those that sort of started hip hop, he had a Jamaican background, Jamaican roots. And I just imagine if it was in Nam, also known as Melbourne, that, you know, one of my Jamaican homies has a big sound system. I can just see it happening here. Like it happened quite organically. Young people weren't able to get into the disco parties in the city in New York, Central Business District. So they went to the Bronx and started their own parties. And over time, people like Grandmaster Flash and others, they joined in and started mixing records and making beats. And so there's a few different people who are nominated as the founders. Dee loves Grandmaster Flash. And yeah, I found out some recent disturbing news about, you know, some of the founders of hip hop. And like anyone, I don't know if anyone's a fan of Gandhi, but you know, some of our leaders, they're not always perfect, and there's some things that go on in communities. So I'm not going to address that, but I think it's just worth acknowledging that I'm not trying to hype everyone up. I'm aware of the recent court case with Grandmaster Flash, but if you're kind of really interested in the origins, there's a really cool documentary on Netflix, which Nicola just posted, called Hip Hop Evolutions, and Jar played that at our camp. So we're going to go now, if Nicola shares the screen again, into 3 topics, which I've sort of looked at in my thesis. And we're going to play 3 tracks which relate to these topics that, as I mentioned, that it came out of Jamaican and African origins, but was initiated in America. And I think that's important. Identity Politics and Dissent, which is talking around the social conditions of the day and speaking out about the everyday issues of, you know, being limited in your expression and even limited in the places that you live. And the third one is consciousness raising. So how can hip hop be used to develop a counter narrative? So the first one that we'd like to talk about is Queen P. And as we talk about an unconference, I'm blessed to have Anyak and Jar here today. I had already asked Queen P and Festo, but we've been in lockdown in Melbourne for, you know, I can't even remember how long now. So everyone's got different things going on. But I love Queen P because she came to our first camp back in, it was 2008, and she's just been an amazing artist, and she's been touring around Australia at the moment. So Nicola's going to play a video about her. And
bear with me, everyone, it's just loading.
As she's getting ready, I was just going to hand it over to Anyak or Jar, who might just like to make a comment about hip hop is Black culture.
Thanks, Sarah. By the look of historically, like you mentioned, some of the, you know, pioneers in hip hop earlier, like Kool Herc, Run DMC, and all the rest, pretty much were more like activism, basically speaking of, you know, African American, you know, social issues, injustices, and many other things, and also to just raising consciousness and knowledge through hip hop. So, in saying that, of course, is part of a Black culture where, you know, people can express themselves, and also to have other voices to be heard as well. Of course, in a different manner, not like in other platforms, but of course in a musical way and poetic way as well.
Thank you.
Going to inspire. I've been asleep too long, you know I gotta wake up. All these illusions in my head, I gotta break them. And everybody wanna say, are you a fighter? The youth within my community, and not just within my community, other communities. So then I have the capability of making a change and having my stories heard and my culture, my identity, who I am, just sharing that with everybody. We're living every day like we're living for today. My life when it comes to me, everything's like. We do a lot of work within the community. We help out a lot with the young people. So how and when did that become your passion?
Music was given to me
That's
as a
awesome.
way to
Stop it there.
channel.
To move on to listening to a track of Queen P. So she will also share the link to this, but I wanted to play a track called Black Panther from PNX, or she calls herself Queen P now, actually. So as you're listening, maybe, I'm not sure if how live transcript works. If you're having trouble hearing the lyrics, we'll definitely send it later, but maybe just have a think about what kind of themes are coming through in Queen P's track. And this is related to hip hop and cultural expression. So I'll just play the track. And as I mentioned before, just to kind of note that, yeah, there is some language warning in this. As I'm loading, it's not here. Sorry, everyone.
Does anyone want to sing it? Yeah, do you know the lyrics, bro?
Oh, here we go.
Cool.
Nicola, do you want to share a bit about your knowledge of Queen P, and I'll just find it again? Apologies.
Yeah, all good. I first came across Queen P at actually like a music opening for another hip hop artist, Sassoonese hip hop artist called Daniel Elia. And she kind of like performed with him in like this kind of garage scene. So that's the first time I met her. But when I was working at City of Stonington in Paran, they've got like a community centre with high-rise flats around them as well. They were organising a Queen P to come in and do kind of like a bit of a gig there too for the kids in the flats. So yeah, it's definitely, you know, she's the type of artist that is here for the community, really doing that grassroots stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how I've came across her. Good vibes all around.
Awesome. Well, I don't know why it's not working.
It's okay.
Sorry,
Are you talking about the sound?
Yeah, we'll
We'll
move on to the next slide, and I'll get it sorted as we're talking about the next person, and we'll make sure that we can get back to this topic, if that's okay.
No worries. I think you're sharing your screen, Sarah.
If you, before you share the screen, if you get it up and you tick down the bottom left corner that you want to share sound. So it's when you first get the share up before you actually share it with us.
Oh, here we go. Great. So you can't hear it at the moment, is that right?
No.
Have you played? You played it, yeah?
You are now listening to the, you are now listening
Oh, thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have time to listen to the whole track. But yeah, I'm just wondering what were people's thoughts? So is there a line or a verse that you really liked? Lisa loves Queen P's style. So feel free to unmute and maybe just share some thoughts on that, or some of our hosts might like to jump in on the topic of hip hop is Black culture, or yeah, go for it.
So, sorry, stop me, by the way, if anyone wanted to come in. But I'll just maybe elaborate a bit more about the hip hop being a Black culture. Like Sarah mentioned before, the foundation of hip hop was because they were secluded, because they couldn't go to the discos. So they found a way to sort of party, and that was Cool Herc. It started the first party. And again, it's a Black culture because it was used to sort of speak out against injustice and against racism, against inequality. So that's how that made that sound, because sometimes, because it sounds cool, it can attract people, engage people. So rather than me just talking how I feel, it's easier to engage people when I say something cool, or when I rap, or when I sing something that engage people, and then people later on picks up the message. So it was used in that way to engage the wider audience, or the United States at that time, as you know, the amount of injustice at the time. So that's what made it a Black culture. Right now, on a global stage, it's pretty much for anyone that wants to express themselves. So, but that's the foundation of hip hop house of Black culture.
And has anyone heard the who know who the Black Panthers are? And do you see a link between this track and the history of the Black Panthers? So Karen says, striking lines, keep us down, keep us in a big cave. Yeah, I love that, Karen. When I was, because my research is looking at the lyrics and what are the counter narratives, I found a lot of links between what we know as colonial power, and I called it in my research white cultural discourse, and we don't have enough time to go back into the history of that, but I found a lot of the lyrics are talking about that kind of conversations that happen, which often do come from white culture, and P Unique, or now known as Queen P, does use a lot of lyrics that are about colonial kind of powers, and she's not having it. Her whole track Bring Black Back is about having a counter narrative to some of those themes.
I just want to add as well, Sarah, the fact that I just want to add the fact that, like you mentioned earlier, Jacob and Sarah, it's though hip hop is being rooted in the Black culture. I mean, looking at it now globally, it has evolved into, you know, like a vehicle for activism basically around the world. Because in saying that, I've listened to different people from different parts of the world that use hip hop to express themselves when they're going against injustice or their voices haven't been heard. For instance, there would be rappers in Palestine, there's rappers in many other parts of the world as well, expressing their voices for the fact that, you know, they're going against the odds. So, and that kind of just highlights the beginning and the birth of hip hop, like going against injustice of America in regards to racism and many other systemic oppression. So you can see that, and maybe this track may explain as well, but different part of hip hop. But yeah.
Michelle said it doesn't help when politicians breed racism. That's a really good thing, and this is what hip hop sort of counter, because as we know, media, our like, you know, Channel 7s, the corporation, they play into the politician narrative. So, you know, politicians, it's easy to conquer when you divide people. So they want to be able to divide us and then they can just say, okay, this is who is bad and this is who's right. So that way they have your vote, they know what to sell you. So hip hop in that sense comes and unites us. It reminds you that, okay, that's what's being said about this group, but here's my part of this, my part of the story. So that's when hip hop comes in. So as people, it's good to always be able to, to give people a chance, or to, to be able to give another narrative a chance. And Channel 7, you see what they do. But when, let's say, the whole world, or let's say the whole Australia, if they were able to say, okay, what Channel 7 is saying is one side, but is there another person saying something else? Or is there another side of that? So this is where hip hop comes in, and with more programs, there's more exposure of the other side of the story. So yeah, Michelle, it's good that we have to be aware that politicians, end of the day, they have a part to play in dividing us.
Oh, that's so good. And Elizabeth just made a really good point as well. So what I got from that track, just in summary of this topic, I kind of got themes of Black power and Black excellence. And rather than what's called a deficit narrative, which is what we often hear about some communities, it's a counter narrative of we're powerful people, we have businesses, we have amazing strengths. Maybe the word strength is not in your language. I don't know if there's other words for strength or assets, but or even leadership, but that's what I got from that chat. So thanks for everyone's comments. We're now going to move on to the next topic. And this one's, a bit more controversial topic, so I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I was looking at drill music, and in particular, which is another subgenre of hip hop music. Well, wave your hand if you have heard of drill music, but they young people kind of use a few different beats and a few different sort of lyrics, and there's a definite different sound to drill music as hip hop has evolved. But what I've found is that young people often love to create new subgenres. They don't necessarily just want to go with what's dictated to them. And so I came up with the idea of hip hop can be a form of dissent. And when you see the visuals of this next clip, often it looks quite violent. And the police, where I used to work at a place called YSAS, which is a youth support and advocacy service, it worked with young people who were often substance affected and were involved in the youth justice system. So after we've watched this track, I'll hand it over to maybe Anyak, who can talk about that a bit further. But I was like, instead of the police were trying to use their lyrics and use them in court when they had different, I guess some people were involved in robbing cars or different things like that. And they tried to prosecute them, and in the court cases, these young people were then not allowed to associate with each other. So it's a law called an association law, where this group called 1-4, who are from Western Sydney, then couldn't tour with their hip hop music. So I'd be interested just to see your thoughts before I share too much on what I think the counter narrative is. So if we play 30 seconds of this clip just to get an idea of what a drill clip looks like.
Sorry, I'll turn my mute off again.
I guarantee you
Awesome. So then we're going to, before I go into the conversation about what we saw, I'm going to play a track where they, after their court cases, they weren't allowed to briefly make hip hop music anymore. And a lot of hip hop artists around the world who are drill artists have now had to think about, well, we really like this style of hip hop, but maybe we need to think of a different message. So we'll just press play on the prison. Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you. So I might hand it over to maybe Anyak and Jar again, just to give a bit more context of maybe how young people have got involved in this kind of music, and what do you think their message is when expressing lyrics and visuals in this way? And maybe anyone from the audience might like to jump in on what you think is happening as well.
I would like to add, Sarah, I mean, if you look at the drill and the way just right here around the corner in Sydney and how they were sanctioned by the government, it's not so much different to what happened back in the 90s with NWA and Eazy-E and Compton and so forth being silent on some of their lyrics, because the reason being is if you're dealing with young people who are frustrated about certain things in their life, they would like to express themselves in the way that they feel comfortable. Sometimes may not be the best use of choice in using certain words or terminologies. However, one had to realize that young people are probably angry and just want to express themselves in that way. And I mean, for the government part, they think when young people say something, they're going to do it, but sometimes it could just be a matter of just them expressing themselves, so they feel like they got rid of the anger within or just the frustration. And I think that's the kind of connection that can make here with the 1-4 and maybe NWA back in America in that sense, but also too, given the drill platform and being another kind of separate part within the hip hop, is that it's the rise of drill from UK, United Kingdom as well, and a lot of young people, they're expressing themselves in a way they can understand themselves in this generation, because with hip hop, it moved with different generation as well. We can go back with Run DMC, people like Tupac can be different to people like Drake right now. So yeah, just different generation really that just express themselves differently.
So drill music, it's like Anyak say, it's similar to your NWAs back in the day. So it's a misunderstood young person who it was pretty much fed up. So they coming from an angry position of being misunderstood and just saying that this system doesn't work, so I'm not even going to try anymore. So they're pretty much just expressing this system has done me wrong, or I'm misunderstood, or I've tried everything that I could, and it's just not working. So I'm just, I don't care for this system. So that is sort of where it comes from, which is why it's dark, because it's sort of saying, okay, I'm going to burn the system down, or I've had enough of this system. I'm going to fight the system, rather than hip hop, other side of hip hop, where it's being inspirational or being educational, or it's waking people up, where it's saying, oh, look, I'm not that bad, or I try to do what's good. So I need to wake people up and let them know that I'm not the bad person that I'm being portrayed, and I've got good in me. So that's the other side of hip hop, whereas this dark side is saying, I have been misunderstood and I cannot change my mind, and I'm sick of it, and I'm tired. I'm done trying to change people's mind. So that's drill in that sense.
Well, thank you. We have one more topic to go, and then just some general discussion time. So if you have any points on that, I'd love to hear if anyone works with young people around the world and hear some of your stories. But I guess my main point from having hip hop as dissent is that if we dismiss young people and this type of music quickly, we miss an opportunity to get to know what their voice is and what their message is. And often it takes things like having studios. Young people were lining up at that studio, some were skipping school, unfortunately, because they didn't have access to things like studios. So we can't always speak to young people, directly face to face. It might be sitting next to them in the studio and, oh, what did that lyric mean? Or learning a bit more about how to record music. So the final, I guess, topic of today is consciousness raising. So I'll hand it over to Jar, maybe even Nicola might like to jump in on this one. Footprints did some projects. So maybe if you just spend probably 30 seconds just going through the next slides and the projects that we created to develop a counter narrative. So Jar, this was the Gua camp. Did you want to explain what the Gua camp was? And you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. So the Gua camp our camps that we, until the coronavirus shut us down, our camp we were running going 10 years back. And it's a Gua itself is power. So it's empowering young people to be able to express themselves through creative arts and pretty much express themselves how they feel. So it were camps that were run, there was a lot of, poetry, there was spoken words, there was dancing and rapping. So we had a lot of young people from around here, from all different type of background, but mostly from the African background, to go over the people that didn't have a lot of voice, to come to the camp and express themselves and learn a skill and learn a bit about creative arts and how they could use that as well to be able to express themselves. So we've run it for the last few years, and yeah, they were really successful, where we had a lot of young groups go there, both boys and girls, and yeah.
Everyone, you know, from years ago, Queen P came to our first one, and remember her as a little girl, and now she's just doing amazing things. So I think it gives an opportunity not just to do short-term projects, but get to know young people over the years and really be there for them. So we developed a festival together, and we had meetings with South Sudanese Australian Youth United, who are also an awesome group to check out. And that finished in the Grounded Festival. So we've had about, I guess, 5 different Grounded festivals and Gua camps. And this was a process to develop lyrics together and to look at that concept of what does it mean to be born to stand out or be different in public, and have many voices who express their concerns. So Nicola, if you jump just through the next 2 slides just to give some visuals, but we did some schools tours and flash mobs, and some of the festivals we envisaged that we would have First Nations artists and also Maori Pacifica artists who also may identify with Black culture, as well as the main performers. So we don't have long left, so we're just going to play the last track, which is an artist called Crown, and he has presented, this is an example of a track which is a counter narrative to what was portrayed about the South Sudanese community not integrating into Australia. So we're going to play 1.5 minutes of this track. So once again, is there any lyrics that really stand out? What do you think the counter narrative is in this track?
I had to do something. Someone had to respond. Setting a bad image of Sudanese people, where in fact there are a lot of great Sudanese people who are doing great things.
We're not as bad as you think we are. Let us live while you're making our life hard. We're not as bad as you paint us, not at all. Some of us are bad, but not as dangerous as you think we are. Here's my word, trick or treat. Don't get tricked by getting treated. Open your dumb eyes and look, see. You need a magnifier. Shots fired. Lies anchoring, cutting your vision short. Higher, less aim at the motherfuckers at the top. Bombs drop to make the Hiroshima see my pain pop. No dimple, simple and cute. When we cut the chase, the bullshit real quick. Put to an end, an enterprise to put an end to compromise and fake shit. News clip trying to war with no clip. The nemesis. What kind of name is this? The game was what the fuck is Apex? Got me vexed. I can't enjoy reading books on the train, getting looked at like a crook. The DNA of KKK suppresses, be suppressing, sick in the mental. I'm guessing Sudanese messing the soul in discovery via bully. All of us thought it was fully good to take refuge in a foul land. Trying to refugee, a proud refugee. I pay my dues. What you talking about? We're not as bad as you think we are. Let us live while you're making our life hard. We're not as bad as you paint us, not at all. Some of us are bad, but not as dangerous as you think we are. This my word to my young niggas playing cards right, because the system ain't playing, is only giving hard life. I guess it's for the strike, going to war with your life. All it takes is a lie from the pop or the news. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey sleep, monkey snooze, monkey wake up quick. Joe Smith is not a mythical character. I spread the world, here's my word to my young niggas playing cards. Wait, Joe Smith is not.
So a few people have been popping some lyrics in. Dee says, I can't enjoy reading a book on a train without getting a look. I just had one, the system ain't playing. It's like going to war with your life. Was there anything from the visuals that stood out? feel free to unmute yourself. We'd have time for maybe one comment. And we're going to finish up by taking a group photo and any final comments. So did anyone have any comments just to finish up on Crown's track?
I was just going to say, I love how they've got the channel 7 holding it up and actually like showing like that's not what we're about. Yeah, that's kind of what I got when I first watched this track.
I was going to say the same thing, Nicola. I think that the impact that commercial TV can have on how the white community sees Black community is a big impact. And Channel 7 has been pushing that narrative for way too many years, whether it's Aboriginal community, whether it's the South Sudanese community. And I love the fact that this song really points that out.
Yeah, so true, Auntie. I agree. It's something that we've been struggling with for a while, that negative media representation, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good thing, and you would just wish that more people were able to see this video, to be able to be like, okay, hold on, well, let's see what they're saying, because every community there's good and bad, as we all know. So to be able to be represented in that light, like as a whole, it's not even just a Sudanese community anymore; it's a whole African community. It's for someone who doesn't know any African, because there are communities where Africans are not there. So there are some Australians who have never met an African person, so they have to believe what they see. So it's really damaging to be able to show that side, because right now we know, we just saw the Olympics, and we saw there were 2 Sudanese representatives, the 800 runner, and then there was Thomas Deng, who was captaining the side. So to be able to have these kind of figures, this kind of sport figures or Sudanese figures that represent Australia on this kind of scale, and to just focus on one narrative, it's really damaging. So it's good to be able to say, okay, well, look, this is not it's not the whole truth. So as
I'm just going to add some. Yeah, sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, so as Crown said, he said we are not as dangerous as you think we are. So he's not saying that there are not bad in us, but we're not all bad. So that's sort of the narrative of his own. But yeah, go ahead.
And the other narrative I just want to quickly add is that, I mean, that goes for Indigenous community as well as the African community and other minorities as well, is the fact that when the young people from certain community or certain ethnic backgrounds are doing bad, or, you know, just find their ground, they are then represented as that community. But when they are doing good, then they call them all Australian. But, you know, it's something that's frustrating. We start to notice that because in the media, like there's a lot of, like Jacob just mentioned, we have a lot of African South Sudanese in basketball, running, footy, you name it. But when they put in the news, oh, it's an Australian. But when one of us mess up, or just one of the young person does something wrong, automatically it's labeled as Sudanese. You know, that double standard sometimes can frustrate young people. Hence why sometimes, you know, people express themselves in hip hop. That's the only easy vehicle they can express themselves, seeing they can't talk back to the media. You know what I mean? So it's that narrative that sometimes is quite damaging. If you got to represent something, just call it as it is. I mean, most of us have been here for 20 years, you know what I mean? And sometimes they use, oh, he's just a refugee from a war-torn country. Some of us came here when, yes, that happened, but we grew up here as well, like just from age 1, or some of us are born here. So these are some of the narratives that media like to highlight sometimes, and it's frustrating within the community as well. And I'm saying not just in our community, but for a lot of minorities community in Australia.
Oh, thanks, everyone. I do have to, unfortunately, I guess, call times. It's just gone 3, and I know you're running an amazing conference. So I was just wondering, if those that do have access to being able to put on their screen, we've just been asked to take a group shot of today, just as a memory of our awesome session. It has been recorded. And as we're finishing up, if you've got any feedback you'd like to put in the chat, or like to get in touch, we're going to put the contact screen on just after we've taken the group photo. So those that can put your screens on, that'd be great to do so now. And I'll just take a quick shot. Thank you, Lisa, Valerie. Oh, yeah, beautiful. Nice to see you. So I don't know how to do this without being cheesy. So on the count of 3, I'm going to take the picture. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thanks so much. Well, we could talk for days. We haven't actually literally seen each other because we've all been in lockdown ourselves, but these guys are my besties and they've just been such amazing people over the years, really great leaders in their communities, and life wouldn't be the same without meeting you. So thank you so much for coming and telling some stories today. There is a book that the ABCD Unconference has. If you've got stories that are similar, I know that Lisa's been putting in the chat some awesome artists. Tell your stories about hip hop, that'll be great. I think we'll put something together as well. And Nicola's just going to put up the, if you don't mind sharing the screen again, this is the link to the book. And the final screen is just our contact details. So if there's any last thoughts or whatever, feel free. If you have to head off to your next session, that's great as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Great session.
Thanks so much, everyone, for coming through. Thank you. Michelle, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, sis.
Yeah, see you later.
See you later.
Thank you, Steph. Awesome.
Thank you. Great session.
Thanks, Dee. We got there.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It's always the case, isn't it? Like just another half hour. Half hour would be great. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Sorry, what?
I think Craig is trying to connect the audio.
It's been like that the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Sorry.
He hasn't fully connected the whole time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thanks
Bye.
Thank you.
See you, Dee.
Yeah.
Thank you.